Hello everyone, Morris here, and today I want to talk about the daily struggle of Axie Infinity Origins player in the Mystic era. So the daily struggle really is how to beat Topaz. Just because every time I start my day, I queue into the arena, and usually the first few teams that I see is Topaz, and I'm like, but it is what it is, and because Topaz is above 50% usage at the top 200, and even if you are top 1000, it's above 40% usage. So that is very, very likely that you will queue into Topaz, and then you ask yourself how to beat Topaz. Okay, so I actually collected some data on just how well different things goes against Topaz, and yeah, let's just jump right into the data. So the first thing is archetype, and you can see sustain. All right, sustain is the answer. If you don't care about other matchup, right, then just play sustain if you just want to play against Topaz and if you just want to win against Topaz. Of course, sustain is not very good against like poison or jinx and stuff, but if you just want to beat Topaz, just switch to sustain. The other two that are worth mentioning are Jinx and Purge. Jinx can definitely fight against Topaz, especially with the Mystic runes. I mean the Mystic charms. And Purge is an interesting one just because there's not a lot of data. That's why it's like the numbers are not very accurate, I feel. But it has certain advantage. The main one being that not many Purge players out there, and so maybe Topaz players just don't know how to play against Purge at this moment. So that is definitely like an advantage. Whereas, for Purge players, they definitely know how to play against Topazes because it's just always there, right? So that probably give the Purge player a bit of advantage for now. So yeah, so those are the archetypes. Unfortunately, don't have more to say just because the rest are not really doing too well. Okay, then let's look at the classes. So there's not actually not much to say. 50% is the highest, unfortunately. The only thing I want to say is don't play Bird for sure. Unfortunately, this Bird is just not doing great. There's no good Mystic runes for birds, so yeah, it's just tough. Plants also not doing the best, even though Leafy is doing okay, but Leafy is just not great against Topaz, so that's really the main thing. So yes, just don't play bird and don't play plants if you want to beat Topaz. Okay, in terms of the runes, so no surprises there. Shell Shock, Adaptive Program, those are the sustain kind of rune. Then that's why they're all the way up there. Holy Prayer as well. There are a lot of sustain player play Holy Prayer as well, just so that they can buff the shield card even further. And you can see pure skill, right? Very interesting. The pure skill being like the rare charm all the way up here against Topaz is because really mostly sustained build are the one playing it as a budget version of Holy Prayer basically. And then shield backup as well, of course. So the interesting thing one I do want to talk about is Gloomy Dice because Gloomy Dice has a surprisingly high win rate against Topaz. Or I won't say that surprising just because it's kind of expected, especially if you high roll, right? If you have Gloomy Dice, you high roll in the early game, then because Topaz relies on playing a lot of cards in the early game. If you really high roll them, then they really slow down their draw quite a lot, and that's going to be pretty tough for the Topaz team. So, yeah, definitely give an advantage, right? With the Gloomy Dice, if you high roll, that is. If you low roll, then it's basically, I mean, Gloomy Dice is one of those RNG charm, right? Where if you low roll, it just does nothing. If you high roll, it's very good. Yeah, I think that's basically it in terms of the runes, is because the rest is not that much. I think Clan Protect would be good, especially in the mirror. I think gives you draw is always very good. So if you're in a mirror, you want to boost a bit of an advantage for your team, then Clan Protect is something that you should look into. Okay, then let's look at the charms. And again, no surprises that the endurance charm are the ones that you see the highest win rate because those are the ones that boost the shield, and of course sustain uses those charms. The other two interesting ones, Energy Drink M, Energy Drink S as well. So those are the banish and basically, and the other is the great. I think basically removing cards from your deck so that you get more consistent draw later on. So sustain use that quite a bit as well, so that basically you can get into your twin tail a lot more frequently. So that is one thing. So the other set that I want to talk about for sure is Flamingo Hammer, Lazy Snail, and Paralyzing Jellyfish. So those are for the Jinx. Yeah, Lazy Snail and the Jellyfish, of course, it's good to put more curse card into the opponent's deck. But the big one actually is Flamingo Hammer. And this one, yeah, surprisingly, I wasn't that surprising, but it is good to see that it is quite high in terms of the win rate against Topaz because it's basically just double talk, right? Double talk, put hopefully two different opponents into weak, and that is can actually slow down Topaz pretty significantly, allowing basically giving time for the Jinx axes to regenerate usually, like just to buy some time. And of course buy some time for the Jinx to actually does the damage. Okay, so that is for the charms. Definitely look out for the Flamingo Hammer. And finally, we look at the parts. And again, of course, the sustain, like tassels, twin tail, these are the two main ones. Tricky as well, just because a sustain run quite a lot of tricky just to get the innocent lamb that turns into another twin tail. So that's another thing. Now, of course, all the shield, but the ones that I do want to talk about is Blue Moon and Babylonia. So Blue Moon and Babylonia are cards that you play in Topaz team, and it seems to be doing pretty well in the mirror. So let's say if you have Topaz against Topaz, then if you have Blue Moon, it definitely gives you an advantage because of the draw. And Babylonia as well. If you don't have Babylonia, it probably is a bit tougher just because Babylonia is the only card that can give vulnerable that is not an eye card or tail card. So yeah, I think that the top teams definitely will run Babylonia and Blue Moon in, I guess, Topaz build. Okay, so that is all for the data. So if I just scroll back up, I just want to give a brief summary. The brief summary basically is, if you want to beat Sustain, if you want to beat Topaz, just play Sustain. Yeah, that's basically how you beat Topaz. Jinx and Purge could be okay as well. And the two items that are definitely worth looking into are Gloomy Dice, which if you high roll, it could be very good against Topaz. And Flamingo Hammer as well, just because putting weak is pretty good. It's definitely slowing your opponents down, and that gives you some time. And if you are a Topaz player, then you consider playing Blue Moon and Babylonia. Those are definitely good in the mirror, and I think just in general, really, on any matchup, but happens to also be good in the mirror as well. So, yeah, that is it in terms of the information. Hopefully, you find it useful, and good luck in the arena. So, I'll see you in the next video.